Greetings, John, from the land of dodgy wiring up telephone poles and power lines and the sound of eternal lawn mowing, strimming and trimming. Welcome to the Man Cave, the little garage here, number 6 at Tarwari Crescent, where Jenny and myself are living. Well, you're welcome any day of the week. And this is the Man Cave, which I don't expect you to believe, because it really is a little bit compact and bijou. But there's the beautiful little red. Isn't she beautiful? Which there's 2 inches between her and the daisy cutter, and then everything else that arrived from England, all the stuff out of the unit, including Dad's toolbox, my Myford lathe, and every inch of wall space that has now been covered with storage, and a hoist that I made, the little yellow thing there at the top, put the light on, along with all the storage on the shelves and various versions of the spike, which are ready to be modelled on, oh, nice little compressor down there as well, ready to be modelled on the daisy cutter. So this is me entering my garage sideways, obviously, but very excited to climb into Little Red. Here we stand in and then drop down. Oh baby! Then see, the trouble is that if you put the keys in the ignition after you put your seatbelt on, you can't actually reach the key slot. Contact! It's alive! And out we go. And there is Little Red herself. We had a bit of rain the other day, so we got a couple of water spots on her, but she's looking resplendent. Listen to that. Can you feel the compression? 9-to-1. Beautiful compression. Beautiful machine. Wonderful wire wheels. Lovingly cherished, polished, and everything. But now she's out. Oh, I've got to go now because Emma's coming in, you see, and we've got to move around and actually get... She's going to tell me to shift the car now, so I'll move the car. So there you go now. That's been MG parked in its special position in the drive. So this is the electronic side of things in the corner, along with the obligatory fan. It's the only way of staying cool around here. Today is very cool though, it's a mere 28 degrees. So, and then basically what I do next is I decide what I'm going to do and then move all the rest of the stuff around so that I can get in and do it. I've got a nice workbench here, and this, along with the other benches, which are made of ironing boards, wallpaper trestles and other doors screwed to the wall, enables me to just get on in a kind of crushed way, but it's all very good. So this is the table that's used for doing all the planar work on the shapes of the bodies and stuff, using my little bandsaw here. But obviously it's from the land of the bloody Moors. If you can hear me over the eternal garden fettling that goes on. Of course this is still a UK device, so you know. Of course what I should have done is cut it off and converted it to one of these kind of slanty-eyed connections, inferior quality fuseless plugs and all that kind of thing. So instead of doing that, I just did a there you go. So sorted out that nonsense. Jolly good. This is all mahogany of a type. As you can see, we've actually got our pieces then properly cut to the right size strips, and this will come in handy when we laminate them all together alongside all of the internal gubbings of the spike, and that will happen on the same bench, doing some laminating. But I'm going to move on now just to show you what else I've got in the procedure, because we're still got to get into doing this yet, because there's various bits of the procedure that are not complete. But I'll show you what I've got, John. Anyway, so obviously the next step is, once you've got all your strips laid up next to each other, is to get the resin on and make sure that they're all laid up properly into a sandwich, and then you clamp them together to make them laminate properly. And the best thing for this in Australia, because you don't want your pieces of wood sticking together along with your little kind of bits of padding that will stop the clamps marking the side of the wood, you don't want these to stick to your actual instrument, so you use the great wonders of Australian instant drain pipe called Polytube. And with this stuff you just cut a section off, and there you go. You can see down it, instant drain pipe, slip it over the woodwork. It's got to be clamped, and it will stop any of your clamps sticking to your actual piece of work. So you just do this in the traditional way, like from one side to the other, put your clamp on and give it a good old tightening up. And then if you work your way along the piece of wood both on the top and underneath, that means that your spike has been clamped the best it can. I'm just going to do this every few inches because it will make for better observation of the lineups. Top and bottom obviously come next. As you can see now, the whole thing is in what I call Christmas tree mode, which is weighing an absolute ton, clamped tightly with everything in the right place. Now what will happen next is we'll give this 8 hours to dry, make sure it's all solid, and then all the clamps will come off, and then it's time to put it into the daisy cutter, ready to get some serious shaping and copying done from the original body. But the good thing about the daisy cutter is we can copy anything we want. We can take it to the new version of the spike, the Australian carbon fibre version, which is this one. It's only a 3-string model, which has come along very nicely. Need to make a few changes to it as I'm going along before I put it into proper production. But this is one of the things that can be copied into this shape, or the other one is the traditional spike. You know, we could actually put this in and copy this as well. Not much damage comes to the original thing when you try to copy it, but at least we've got a machine that can do much more than just spikes. It can do any design that we put in there and try to copy, which I'm very glad about. Move over and show you that next. Alright, as you can see, this is the daisy cutter being lined up. That's a laser in the opposite set of jaws, which are, this end is the head end, which will hold the top end of the instrument, and in those jaws there, 4-chuck jaws, that's got the target on it at the moment. You can see with the laser on it, the laser shining down from that end, which you've no doubt got already, and the opposite pair of jaws is what holds the shape you want to copy, and then the whole thing made of purely Land Rover parts will do the rotating, and the seesaw bit on the top here, which you can see in red. I haven't got the rotors mounted yet, which just sit in there. There's the stylus rotor and then the cutter rotor, and then the whole thing, as you can see, if you put your hand on this and lift it, it's just resting on this trestle at the moment, which is for setting up the cutters, but you can lift it and the whole thing is just super lightweight and just bounces as it needs to. And the counterbalancers are at the opposite end there, where they are just gymnasium weights, you know, so we've got 2.5 kilos a disc, and when the routers are in there you probably need about 8 kilos, 10 kilos maximum. But that's the receiving end, the back end, which holds onto everything, obviously there, and the fantastically ace laser. We had it in the workshop at Blackburn, but also this is an amazing feature as well. The entire beam which the lathe sits on is movable, and as you can see, if I just pull it towards us, the entire thing will move now either side, so that you can skew the cutting. If I just zoom out and just move it, you can see there that it's able to slide at both ends, left and right, or indeed on a parallel axis. You can go forwards and backwards as much as you want, as long as you're not being blocked by rubbish, of which there's a good chance you are in this garage. But the whole thing makes for the fact now that we can use this to route out the electronics cavities and bays within, and do it properly, you know. But there you go, the whole thing just moves very well indeed. But so what I'm going to be doing is lining up the machine for the rest of today now, getting the routers fastened up and arranging the push-pull action of these, because it's all going to be motorized. And to do it cheaply and easily, what I've done is I've bought some of these Ryobi automatic caulking guns, which you can see here. You know, you get the thing where it's it fits into a tube when you've got a tube of sealant, and you press the trigger and it goes zzz, and this actuator moves out quite cheaply. I think the whole thing cost about 20 quid. So I've got two of these. One's going to sit at one end and one's going to sit at the other, and the two of them are going to be controlled with a remote control switch, which is going to sit in a box about here, which means that we can then not so much automate it, but make it easy to control it all from one point. But the reason why the beam being able to move offset on this is a good idea is because, as you know, guitars are tapered. Well, in the old days this used to cut down the edge of the neck in a stepped manner, whereas what we do now is we just offset the beam and let the trolley run back and forth on the top in a straight line, and what you get is hopefully the 2.5–3 degree taper on the neck. Now all of this remains to be seen, but I'm very happy with the re-engineered version of this, and I can the next thing I'm doing today is getting out the welding set and just doing a few changes to the counterbalance here, which is this thing. Just check for spiders. In Australia you have to check for spiders because when you pick things up they live in the holes and they can make you foam at the mouth. So this goes on the top and sits, as you can tell, just there. That's what completes the counterbalance, and it needs to be welded to that underneath, but because it's cast iron, obviously there's a problem. You can't weld cast iron to steel, but when it's done it will definitely counterbalance the Ryobi routers at this end, and any fine adjustment of the weight to get the correct cutting weight is obtained via this timing belt wheel, which you turn and it moves this counterbalance, or a straight edge drafting tool which is what it was, forward and backward on that threaded bar, making it very easy to control the head end weight. Now anyway, so I'm going to get on with it, and I shall put extra bits in as I've done them. But as you can see, that's the beauty. This is one of the beauties that I've done already, waiting to be processed further and copied, and pretty soon we should have the finished instrument. and I cannot wait. I tell you, I've been putting every penny that we've received into this, and with the good grace of my dad, there he is, along with his dog, and thanks, Dad. Right, there you go. So we've got the fine tuning, mass balancing, damping, great big lump of cast iron back on the daisy cutter, with a nice little lick of paint, and it's been bolted and welded much stronger. Everything's been greased up, and it's working a treat. So the next thing to put on is the routers, which I will be doing tomorrow morning. So today we're going to fit the old routers, the Ryobi 2000 watters, back onto the position on the head of the daisy cutter there, and here they are. This is the wonderful, hugely oversized 2000 watt routers. Now there were two of these, one of them, as you can see, which has got that green cutting head in, and then the other one, which is over there, is the stylus. And as you can see, they've already been stripped of their usual plugs. It's quite strange, that's double insulated, there's no earth on it, which for a metal implement is quite surprising, but these get wired into the control box there on the side of the daisy cutter, and I'll get on with it. There's a little bit of illegally imported English sawdust there as well, as you can see in the box. Oh, that's one that the customs missed, huh? Okay, we've got the Ryobi twin routers, identical routers, and just been giving them a quick service. I've just taken the base plate off because these screws which hold it on are steel, and obviously the base plate is aluminium. Over time they do corrode, and not being able to find any of the screws, I've actually been out and bought some of these 20mm countersunk screws, and we're going to put them into the 120 degree apart holes on here, through the 120 degrees apart holes on there. You can see them, the three little dots there, and this will hold them in place. So here goes. And then the other side, lift it into place. It's great having the right tools. Right, there you go. The routers are in place, and Daisy's looking relatively balanced now. She's got the counterbalance is just midway at the moment. We've got a few weights on that end just to take up for the weight of the rotors, and it's resting on the bench at the moment on this. This is a jig which I made, which is completely level. You can tweak it up with an adjustment on the leg, and it lets you set the height of both cutters to be identical, because obviously that's very important, otherwise one of your runoffs will be smaller or larger than your copy, than your actual original. So anyway, that's good. Next step. Right, the next part is to get our wonderful daisy cutter linked up to the control box, which has still yet to be constructed, but it's going to sit about here. And what will happen is you've got all your routers, which obviously need a relayed 240 volt connection, and then you've got your drive motor here, which is the 12 volt connection, to go back and forward. But also with this table, this beam being able to now move forwards and backwards by a few inches, we're going to use this Ryobi automatic caulking gun. I've got two of these things, and they're going to do all the pushing and pulling when they're connected to the table. So that's the next part. Now, part of the stuff that I brought from England was the wonderful bundle of cables, etc., that were from the original daisy cutter operation. You know, we got the emergency stop. When Barry was involved, I said that I'd let him use 50p worth of health and safety devices, like I've done. We got the stair lift cable, the flat ribbon, I think that's 8 core, and the major umbilical cord, which is the lift cable, which is this, I think it's 1.5mm plus a main current carrying conductor. It's lift cable, as I said. It's each core is numbered individually, which is extraordinarily helpful. And then basically we use these just to carry the different voltages to the daisy cutter itself. It weighs a ton. If I was being very technical about it, I would probably make a series circuit which can do things, but we don't even need to do any of that to test the thing, because what I'm going to do is I'm now going to line it up, fix the tracks, which are at the moment just free. As you can see, they're very wobbly. I'm going to line up the bed with the daisy cutter trolley and make sure that it stays where it needs to be, because if you look, this is what the track's made of. It's a piece of gutter, aluminium gutter, and then on top of it sits this round section aluminium, which fits perfectly with the daisy cutter trolley wheels there. Now, if you remember in days gone by, and the one thing that my dad pointed out when he visited the workshop was I couldn't afford any round track, so we had these micro switches which were fastened to the actual inverted right angle section, and as Daisy would traverse back and forth, the wheels would hit the micro switch, and then it would start to send them back in the other direction. So I mean, these will probably not be used on this now, made of steel, but if we do need any limit switches, we can always use them. But what I'm going to do now is get the whole thing lined up with the center line. We've already lined up with lasers for the central jaw positions, which went swimmingly well, and I'll get back to you as soon as we've done that. We can test it then, just to make some noise and dust. Okay.